Welcome to Try Not to Overthink It, where we explore the intricate landscape of mental health, well-being, and everyday life. I'm RJ.
I'm Khalil.
Join us as we dive into insightful conversations, share expert perspectives, and personal stories that shed light on the various dimensions of mental wellness. Whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or deeper understanding of the human mind, this podcast is your safe space to engage, learn, and navigate the journey to a happier, healthier self. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification button so you do not miss out on any future content. So today we are going to be unpacking the topic of finding compromise. I thought it was important for us to kind of talk about this particular topic because we live in a day and age where there's so many different arguments, so many different debates, so many different points of view, and a lot of times we argue and debate and converse about different things, and we're not really getting to the root cause of what we're debating, what we're arguing about. We're just debating or arguing for the sake of arguing instead of trying to find some common ground or find some common understanding. So I thought it was important for us as therapists to kind of unpack this topic because, as Khalil alluded to in a previous episode, not all confrontation is bad. Confrontation should have some sort of purpose. And if we're going to discuss things, there should be some sort of purpose that we are discussing the topic to hopefully reach. There should be some resolution. There should be some overall arcing theme. We should be having conversations of education instead of conversations of confrontation. So I thought it was important for us to kind of unpack this topic. What are you guys' thoughts on it?
Thoughts on compromise? Just burn it to the ground. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Sometimes you might have to.
Oh, but I think that I had this marriage counselor, premarital counselor, and he said conflict is not good or bad. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that's true. It's not. It's neither good nor bad. It's how you respond to it that's good or bad, right? That's
Yeah.
healthy or unhealthy. Conflict in itself is just it's showing that there's a difference of opinion or a
Mm-hmm.
difference of belief. There's some type of difference, and difference is good. I think in our country, different, like in the Western world, difference is seen as something that's negative, right? If you're man versus woman, boy versus girl, black versus white, um, South American versus Spaniard, like it's seen as if a person is different from you, then it's a bad thing. But difference isn't bad. Difference is just different, right? And I think if you look at conflict like that, and then not, I think the thing is people make conflict and confrontation synonymous, and they're not.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a conflict but not become confrontational.
Absolutely.
Right.
Confrontational in and of itself has a negative connotation because it's the way that you're going about something, right? You have an assertive, depending on who you are, it starts off assertive, but it can easily lead to an aggressive manner, right? You're approaching it, you're speaking on it, but you're coming against it a lot of times. So I think that's what I that's my initial 2 cents on conflict. It's not a bad thing. It's healthy. You need to know that there are differences, because that means people are expressing who they are individually.
Yeah, I like the topic, the title, right? Finding compromise, right? Like you're gonna have to search for it
Mm-hmm.
because, like, you need just properly laid out, right? We're not always going to agree with people, right? And so sometimes, even if we're being assertive and we're trying to stand up for what we believe in, it might come off aggressive because we're trying to state a point. Well, when it comes to compromise, what I just realized, right? I didn't know this my whole life, right? That during compromise, it's not always going to be me giving something up, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm assertive and if I fully healthy compromise, let's say healthy compromise, right? Because there's some compromise where you're obviously not going to get things the way you would like them, right? Healthy compromise, right? If I'm going into a situation with my spouse, right? If my spouse says, "Hey, it's too hot in this house," I'm gonna need the AC turn down a little bit so we can get this air situated, right? But I'm an anemic person, right? I get cold easily, right? And I'm just using this as an example because I'm not anemic, but I get cold easy and I get frustrated when it's cold, right? Obviously, I can't leave that argument or that situation, right, with the air on 68 degrees because I'm not gonna make it through the winter, right? I'm probably gonna have to go sleep in a hotel. I'm not gonna make it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that'd be unhealthy compromise, right? So there would be a conflict in the standoff part where, hey, my needs aren't being met, and if my needs aren't being met, Unique said it earlier, we'll burn the whole thing down, right? Nobody gets what they want. We'll burn the whole thing down, right? That's what it'll feel like, but it's not. This is where proper communication has to step in, right? Like, hey, I'm not going to be able to last 6 straight months with the AC on 68. It's just
I
not going
think I think to your point though, right? So compromise, I think we think that compromise means one person wins. I cannot think it's a therapeutic concept where I think it's like grapes or something like that. I can't remember the theory right now, but it talks about like it being a win-win as it
Mm-hmm.
to.
relates to compromise. And
Right.
so for your scenario, it could definitely be a win-win. If the person is like they're having private summers, okay, there are fans. They even have like those personal ACs that people can
Oh
like wear
yeah,
around their neck.
yeah,
Where it's like, okay, I've got to buy something where it's gonna help me to better regulate my body. If you're a lady, go get those hormones checked. But
yeah.
um, even if you're a guy, I tell
Right,
everybody
right.
get your hormones checked. The older you get your hormones checked because things change as we age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but make sure that okay, I'm hot. Everybody else may not be hot, so I'm going to regulate my body temperature, right? But then the other person could say, okay, well, no, you don't have to keep the house at 70. You can bump it down to like 69, 68. And for certain parts of the day, if you're here, I'm not here, I don't care. Lower it,
Right,
right? When
right.
I come home, I'll throw in a little extra hoodie or something so that it doesn't have to be our normal temperature, but everybody wins, right?
Wins,
Hey,
win-win.
this is the temperature that I can comfortably have it at. What's the temperature you can comfortably have it at? Well, I can comfortably have it here with my fans and everything else. Okay, good,
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
right?
can see a compromise, right? My wife likes it a little warm at night. Man, we bought a thicker blanket.
Mm-hmm.
That's a compromise.
Well, I mean,
It's a compromise.
like to both of you guys' point, compromise starts with listening. You really
Mhm.
have to hear what the other person or persons are needing before you start
Mm-hmm.
talking and you start defending your point. The common mistake that we
Mm-hmm.
make, especially in today's society, is we spend more time talking than we do listening.
Mm-hmm.
And by being quiet and listening more, you're able to realize that some things aren't even that deep. Sometimes you're arguing the same point, you're just arguing it from two different directions.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's where we have to use that. And I've talked about this in previous episodes about using the superpower of active listening. You
Mm-hmm.
know, being willing to sit down and receive what the other person's saying without interrupting, without interjecting, without trying to prove your point, trying to overtalk the other person. Because with compromise, there's a give and take. It's not, the same way that you're willing to hear what the other person or other persons are saying, that makes them more likely to receive what you have to say. And so when you sit down, like for me, whenever I go into a conversation with someone, especially when it's about something that I know is going to be contentious or it's going to be something that may be a confrontation, I always ask myself, is it worth being right or is it worth being at peace?
Yeah.
Right.
When you
Like
enter into
what's the goal of this?
yes, when you enter into conversations such with that mindset is, am I trying to be right or am I trying to be at peace? You find yourselves really, regulating yourself and recognizing that everything isn't worth arguing about. Everything isn't
Mm-hmm.
worth fighting about. Because I know that me talking to you about certain things or me coming to you with certain things is automatically going to start an argument. So if I want to keep my peace as for me, as a therapist, we all talk about that, protecting your peace. You see that all over the internet, all over social media.
It's
But
top side conversation.
yes, but the thing is, a lot of us don't really navigate in peace. If we're really honest with
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, we don't really navigate in peace when we're constantly
They
arguing.
come at war
Yeah.
They choose violence every day and then wonder
every
why
day.
why they're always at conflict with somebody. But, as I said before, every situation does not, like I was saying a little earlier about give and take, every situation doesn't need to be 50-50 split. Sometimes it may
And
be
it won't be.
60-40, and other times
Yeah.
it may be 40-60, and that's okay. But you got to be willing to bend on small things in order to preserve the harmony and the peace of the much bigger things.
Right.
Yeah. I was talking in my couples therapy about conflict and trying to help the clients to understand how conflict can play a healthy role in our marriage. And we have to be cognizant of how it shows up. And I think this is a sidebar for when people are dating or building friendships. I know in one of our episodes we just recently talked about building friendships and knowing when to let someone go. A
Yeah.
part of that is knowing how this person how they how they show up during conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
Finding that out when when you have a conflict is possibly dangerous, right? You want to ask that beforehand. Hey, when you're mad or when we disagree on something, when you disagree with someone, how do you show up? Like, how do you handle that? If things aren't going your way, how do you handle that? So with my clients, I shared the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was very interesting. I liked it. I hadn't heard of it before, but I really liked it. And so it's called like I think the shorter name is like the TKI. So, but
Mm-hmm.
the TKI conflict, it says it identifies two basic dimensions of conflict behavior. So assertiveness, the degree to which you try to satisfy your own concerns during a conflict. This is related to how you might try to meet your needs or receive support for your idea. And then the second model is, for the second dimension, is cooperativeness. The degree to which you try to satisfy the other individual's concerns, it is related to how you might try to help the other individual meet his or her needs, or how you can be receptive to the other individual's idea. I think that's kind of what Rajamel was saying, just listening, right? To figure out, I want to be in this space with you, so I need to be cooperative so I can understand what's going on. He goes on to say that there are five kind of modes that people fall into, and you create the five major combination possibles in a conflict situation. So all of them, some people may fall into one or more of these, but the five groups are competing, is assertive and uncooperative. In this mode, you try to satisfy your own concerns at the other person's expense. Collaborative is both assertive and cooperative. In this mode, you try to find a win-win solution that completely satisfies the concerns of both individuals involved. Compromising is intermediate in both and sorry, in both assertiveness and cooperativeness. In this mode, you try to find an acceptable solution that only partially satisfies both individuals' concerns. Avoiding is both unassertive and uncooperative. In
Mm-hmm.
this mode, you work to sidestep the conflict without attempting to satisfy either individual's concerns. And then you have accommodating. It's unassertive and cooperative. In this mode, you try to satisfy the other person's concern at the expense of your own concern. And so I like this
Yeah.
model, the TKI. When I found it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to save this because I think it kind of breaks down, especially in couples work, how we show up. A lot of times we show up in like the swing of the pendulum. Either we're competing, right? This is what I need. We're kind of like in Khalil's story where he's just like, I need the air down because I'm feeling hot. I need to get this done. And we're trying to convince the other person of why our idea is the best. Because
Mm-hmm.
I can't sleep like that and I'm just not gonna be okay. And everybody else is just gonna have to deal because I just need that. Or we're super on the other end of the spectrum and we're like, you know what? Just do whatever you want. I don't even care. Turn up the air, freeze me to death, go
Right.
for it. Just
Right.
whatever you need to do so I don't have to hear your mouth. Do it. Right. And that's the accommodating, but neither of those areas does the person get what they want. Right.
Right.
Or you have the avoiding, I'm not going to talk about it at all. Forget your air. what air? We don't even have central air. Okay, what
Right.
is a hot flash? I don't even know what a hot flash is. You're crazy, right? But the two that I really like are collaborative and compromising. I
Right.
prefer collaborative more because it's still communicating your needs, but it's also working on a solution to make sure both people get what they need. And I think that's the healthiest, right?
Right.
But that's something that we have to learn to work up towards, especially if we grew up in an environment where you had to pretty much fight for everything.
Mhm.
Right.
And that's
Right.
not people like to throw around the word trauma. I'm not going to say you lived in a traumatic environment. No, but sometimes you may have been the middle child or the baby child. You
Right.
don't get a lot of say so. So when you grow up, the chance you get to finally have say so, baby, you're clawing because you're like, no one heard me my whole life.
Right.
Now, for the rest of my adulthood, I'm going to be heard, right? Or you come from an environment where your parents were super busy. Maybe you felt like they weren't as involved with you as a kid. So you were also, again, fighting to be heard, fighting to be understood, or you have parents who were
Mhm.
either helicopter parents or sometimes parents who were a bit more strict. So you didn't have all that free will and say so. So now you're just always trying to prove your point.
Right.
Mhm.
So it kind of shapes how you become an adult. You had a great childhood. No one would have called CPS or anything like that.
Right.
You did all the wonderful things, but you don't do it. Or like my kid likes to think, he likes to believe she lives in a fairy tale land and she's a unicorn apparently because the rules don't apply to her. They apply to everybody else, but not to her. So she's more avoidant. I said, Pete, you shouldn't even do anything that I ask. But I have a reason. No one cares about your reason, Pete. Like you didn't do it. Well, that's because I
Mhm.
didn't see it. I said, Pete, why do you not see it? It's on the counter. Like what? Well, I didn't see it there because I wasn't looking for that.
Right. Right. I was doing my own thing. And it's hey, look, so you just
And then I
described
just want to
perfectly.
become confrontational. I forget all of this because
You,
Yeah.
I just
right.
want
You
to.
forget all the all the
I'm ready to knuck
skills.
and buck.
You forgot all the skills. But to what Unique said, right? All of that is perfect. I like the TKI example, right? Because it does fit in with what I was saying. And what I was going to get to is when we are avoided, right? Or when we are not compromising and we're just going to be trying to get a one over, right? I just want it my way, right?
Mhm.
And that's the accommodating, right? And if you have a partner that's constantly accommodating, well, then that breeds resentment
Yeah.
It
because the
does.
problem is
Oh,
never
please
resolved.
speak on that. Please
Yeah,
dive
it's never
deeper
resolved.
into that.
Yeah. Because people think that by not arguing or not saying no or not setting healthy boundaries or not standing up for themselves, they think that that is going to make the situation better. It does
Or
not.
go away. Oh my
It does
goodness.
not. All it does is, as Unique alluded to, you're just avoiding a small confrontation that is going to become a bigger confrontation later. Like
Right,
healthy compromise is where everyone everyone involved feels considered, they feel heard, they feel seen, they feel valued, even if they don't get everything that they want.
right,
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where like where you see in today's society where everyone wants what they want and they're not willing to step off of exactly everything that I want.
Yeah.
Their thought process is, because a healthy thinking, rational thinking person would say, hey, if I got five things, if I can get two to three of those five things, I'm okay with that.
right.
Yeah,
I'm doing well.
I'm
I'm doing
doing
well.
well. But we live in a day and age where everyone, I have five things, I want five things, and I'm not willing to negotiate off those
And
five
I'm gonna
things.
get 5
And
things.
And
I'm
I'm
going
gonna
to get
get
five things. And if I do,
And I might get 6.
right.
and if I don't get my five things, then
Might
I'm
be.
willing to to just
I'm willing to take it
mess it up.
down.
I'm willing
Yeah,
to. I'm
hunting it
willing.
down.
Yeah. and that's problematic. I mean, because again, it doesn't serve or help anybody when we're not willing to engage in conversations
You
of
know what I think
education.
this comes from? I think this kind of comes from, and this is not to blame anything, but I think it shows up in media where you have like all of these, um, like these entertainment shows. I'm trying to think the reality TV shows,
Reality
Yeah,
TV
right?
shows, yeah.
Reality TV is probably the biggest example of what you're talking about because the arguments are the same. I don't care which one you watch.
Right.
Okay, whether you're watching any of the Love and Hip Hops, the Married to Medicine, Bad Girls Club,
Real
you name it,
Housewives.
Real Housewives. I don't care
It's all
which
the
one
same.
you watch. All of the arguments are the same. Everyone on there has poor emotion management,
Yep.
Yeah.
and their conflict resolution skills are trash.
You
Right?
know,
Because of what you said. I gotta have it my way. You talk to me this way, so now I'm about to talk to you that way. Calm down. Everybody take a
Right.
Xanax.
yeah, everything doesn't always
Gosh.
need to be on a 10 all the time.
Pop a Xanny bar, guys. It's gonna be okay.
But
Well, that's
see,
how you know it's not reality. Because in
but
reality, if you're gonna talk to me like that, we sure enough gonna be fighting every
but
episode,
see, that's
right?
the
Like,
thing. I think it's a dramatized version of reality
right,
where
right.
you will have people, and we see it in therapy all the time. People have poor relationships, and you're like, why do you have such poor relationship? Because they was talking crazy to me, and I'm not about to sit there and have them
Talking
talking crazy to
reckless.
me. And I said, well, friend, how did they even get to that point? Well, because I had given them chance after chance after chance, and the chances were done. Pause. So you mean to tell me they did this 15 times and you never said anything? Well, no, because I was giving them a chance. Booty. The problem's you.
15.
The problem
yeah,
is with you. Because why would you allow 15 times for somebody to play in your face? And then on the 16th time, you wonder why they still doing it. Because Bookie, you set the stage.
exactly. And
And at some point,
I had that same conversation with one of my friends at work where, she and I were talking about this guy she's dating. And so she's like, they've been talking to each other now for going on 6, 7 months. And so she got mad because she said, hey, I want us to be in a relationship. And he said, hey, I'm not ready to be in a relationship. So my thing was, my first question is, we're all grown, so we're all over the age of 30. So I'm like, have you guys been entangling and doing?
and they
And so she's like, yeah. I said, so that's your problem right there.
it's your
You set
problem.
you set the standard here. When you were expecting here. Now you want here, and he's like, hey, I was getting everything from up here down here, so
Down here
I'm
at the
fine with
base
just staying
level.
here. And so that's where, as you alluded to, and we've talked about on here before, you set the trend, you set the tone, you set the priorities of work in regards to how to interact with you. And
Yeah.
Right.
that's where
Yeah.
we have to be very cognizant and aware. But I mean, like, to your point about, reality television, it is not just in reality television. You see that in politics. You see
Yep.
Politics.
that
Yeah.
you see that in daily conversations where
Yep.
people are not willing to sit down and say, hey, you know what? We're both being disrespectful. Because if we're yelling or we're talking
But you know
elevated
what that
tone,
is? It's a lack of boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
And boundaries is my favorite B word. When you don't have no boundaries, it is. When you don't have no boundaries, you're going to be talking over people, you're going to be
Mhm.
cutting up because you don't respect yourself. If you have healthy boundaries, you know what you're going to say? You know what? I'm not even going to talk to you like that because I wouldn't want nobody to talk to me like that. So I'm not even going to go there with you. I'm not even going to get nasty with you. Because the moment you get nasty with me, I'm going to have to give you a nice, healthy consequence. Okay?
But see,
Calm
like,
it down.
with situations like boundaries, and even like for most of us, we have, and I've talked about this and I've said this on a couple of episodes, we continue to do things because they've always worked for us, not realizing that
Right,
we've
right. That
perpetuated.
didn't work. It didn't
Yeah,
work.
it's been broken.
It
And
was
so,
comfortable.
yeah, exactly. and
Right. It's
and
time.
that's where,
There you go.
for a lot of us, we have to change our mindset. Our mindset matters. You have to check your pride.
Get your
Sometimes
life
the
together.
real win is keeping the connections that you have with other people and not keeping control. You know,
Oh, oh. Roger, but see now, cause see. Wait a minute.
Right.
Wait a minute, cause you didn't crunch some girls' toes with this one. Okay. Like when you talk about removing control, you really got to unpack that, because you're saying that I have to allow people to show up as their authentic self and not the version of themselves that I have in my head.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean
that's heavy. No, but that's heavy, because if I engage with a person in a way that says I'm respecting you for being you and not the version of you that is comfortable for me.
Yep.
Then it means I have to have a different conversation. I have to be willing to say, okay, how do you see this? How does this decision that I want to make going to impact you?
Well,
and I have to be comfortable with whatever they say.
And see, this is where, as I said before, by sitting down having the conversation, it stops the perpetuation of violence. Because my thing is like my thought processes on it is like, and I've referenced Daryl Davis on here a couple times, like where he was able to change people's thought process about racism from conversations. It didn't always, everything.
Have conversations.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, because
this is the thing, you got to understand the audience too. Am I walking up to a Klansman saying, "Help me understand white supremacy"?
Right. You're probably
and why
not
you shouldn't be a white supremacist? Probably not. Why? They're just not going to hear me out.
Time.
They're just not going to hear me out. That's their own decision. Do I think that's right? No, I don't think white supremacy is right. Neither do I think, I don't know if we have black supremacy, but I think you have certain groups of people, I will not name them, but there are certain groups of people that think that being black is superior. I don't think anybody should think that. I think we are all created equal and should behave as such, right? But I think you have to recognize, again, your audience. Would this person be open to a conversation? And I've had many conversations with people of differing beliefs. That's why I think you have to be, is this person willing to hear me out?
Yeah.
Can I ask questions without this person getting defensive? Hey, why do you believe that? This is the best way. I didn't ask you that. I just asked why. Why do you think it's the best way?
Best way.
Right?
Right.
Can I interest you in another body of thought? I'm not saying can I convince you. Can I just interest you in a different way of thinking? And for the majority of people, I think, who have these polarizing beliefs, the answer is usually no. I don't think you should steal their flag, but I think you should have the maturity to say they can have their polarizing thoughts and they can get whatever comes with that.
We can agree to disagree.
So if I decide not to deal with you because I believe you have a polarizing view on things, then that's okay too, because you communicated that that's how you want to be treated.
Yeah, and I mean that's what you see that is inundated across today's society and today's culture is everyone has these polarizing viewpoints about everything. And then instead of, because we are, as you alluded to, we're all equal. We're one big giant community. And instead of us growing closer together, these particular viewpoints or these particular opinions drive us apart. And we spend more time fighting, arguing, instead of moving our society and our cultures forward. And that's where it becomes counterproductive, because again, like right now, the government shutdown. Right. We're arguing about certain things, but guess what? The country's government is shut down right now because we cannot. People aren't being paid.
The military aren't being paid.
The military people are getting they are getting paid. But
people get paid.
Yeah, the essential people get paid. But like people
in the reserves, people that trickle down, like insurance, right? People who are on Medicaid, government-funded program,
or EBT and food stamps, because I've been watching videos about that, about people not getting their EBT or their food stamps, and they're talking about rioting and robbing grocery stores if they don't have food stamps on the first.
Right.
So I mean, it that's where, as I said before, not being willing to budge off my 5 things, and I'm gonna get my 5 things to hell or high water. I'm getting my 5 things. That becomes counterproductive, and that's where you have to kind of take a step back and pause and say, "Hey, is me getting my 5 things? Is it really worth everything that I'm arguing or fighting?" Right. Exactly. Because if the hurt outweighs my want, then I might need to move off of my want a little bit.
Right. Yeah, and
Mhm.
especially in a relationship, right?
Mhm.
If I'm in a relationship with somebody, whether it be my spouse, my child, right, my family members, right, regardless, I do have to think about the greater good for everybody,
Mhm.
right? But I do think once we're arguing, right, once we're getting aggressive, like Unique said before, when it leads from assertive to aggressive, right, and I'm ready
Mhm.
to burn your truck down because of
That's
a
it.
flag, right, there's a problem.
Yes.
Torture.
Now we're torching the truck down.
There's
There's
there's a
a
much
problem,
bigger problem than
right?
just
But that's, and
that.
I think that that was the problem too with when churches were getting burned down, right?
Mhm.
Just
Right.
because you don't like something doesn't give you permission to become aggressive,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
It just doesn't. That's why I said I don't condone the thievery of anybody's property. I think, are you always going to be able to have a conversation? No, let's just be realistic.
Mhm.
You're not always going to be able to have a conversation because some people's beliefs are polarizing. But when
Yep.
you can have that conversation, hey, I'm not trying to convince you on a point. I'm just trying to share some extra points with you, leave you with something to consider,
Yeah. Well,
right?
look
But
at
a
the
lot of people
Gaza
just aren't
Strip
that
right.
healthy.
Yeah, look at the Gaza Strip right now, right? When people are telling me that, oh, well, they know what's right for Israel, or they know what's right for Palestine, or they know what's right for other people, right? To me, I feel like we absolutely, especially if I live here in the United States,
It's none of my business.
I don't think it, yeah, I don't think I have a say so in what goes on that little strip of land that they've been fighting for centuries,
and and
for
that's
millennia.
where we have to, as I alluded to earlier, what we have to kind of stop and evaluate what's more important. Is having my way more important, or keeping the peace more important?
Having my
and
way.
and most of us, we, as
Always
unique
having
just
my way.
said, that most people, their thought process is, I gotta have my way all the time.
All the time.
There is no other way. And that's where, like I said, as long as we are constantly thinking like that, and we're constantly just doing that,
Mhm.
guess what? We're always going to be at each other's necks. We're never going to get
Yeah.
anything accomplished. We're never going to be able to see eye to eye. We're never going to be able to be on the same page. We're never going to be able to move forward. We're going to just be, it's going to be a rinse and repeat of the same argument, just a different flavor.
I think that a lot of times, right, instead of just like I jokingly say tear it down or burn it to hell, but I think that a lot of times you just have to sit back and consider, yes, what do I want? But is this really important to me? Because some of the stuff we're sitting there hell bent and arguing about, it's just like, this is not gonna matter to me in a day, a year,
5 years from
2 years from
now,
now.
10
It's
years
just
from
not
now.
it's not going to make a hill of beans different. I'm not even gonna remember my staunch approach on this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the reason why I said boundaries are important is because most of the times when we become angry, I tell my clients all the time, anger is not a bad emotion. Anger is an indicator that there's been a violation, right? That
Absolutely.
the line has been crossed. And so instead of just allowing anger to turn into rage, which is negative, right? Because rage is unchecked anger, it is unfiltered anger. Instead of allowing it to turn into rage, investigate, why am I angry? Do some self-reflection, some introspection, and say, okay, why does this matter to me? Why am I feeling offended about this? And once you are able to lock in with that, now I'm ready to have the conversation. So if I looked at the flag, instantly I'm probably going to feel a little angry if I see a Confederate flag, because that flag means something different to me than probably the
Right.
carrier of the flag, right? So
Absolutely.
I'm going to feel a bit of upset about that. If I check my anger, okay, this is something that is offensive to you. Why is that offensive to you? Because people who look like me, that flag meant something different to them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
But it also helps me to say, this person may have the privilege of not seeing it that way. They have the privilege of looking at it from a different lens. And just
Mm-hmm.
because their lens is different from mine doesn't make them bad. Neither does my position make me bad. It
Right.
allows for there to be an opportunity for inclusivity to say, okay, we have varying opinions. And it also can mean maybe I will have that conversation. Maybe I will just stay away from that person
Mm-hmm.
until, maybe that's what the consequence is going to have to be with that violation. Because if they're unwilling to be to hear me out, hey, that may just be a relationship I need not have. And we talked about that in another
Mhm.
episode, recognizing when to quit. If a person is going to continually violate your boundary, that's not a relationship that you want to maintain, right? Hey, I'm telling you that this hurts me,
Mm-hmm.
or this is how this makes me feel. And for a person to continue to do that without regard for your feeling, it shows you, this is not a relationship I desire to keep.
Right.
Absolutely. And you said
Maybe the
something
neighbor, whoever.
you said something that was very powerful. You use I statements. This is how
Mhm.
I feel. This is how what you're doing or what you're saying makes me feel about a particular thing. It's important that we're using those I statements because people understand and are more willing to relate to things when you're taking ownership for
Mhm.
how
Right.
you feel versus
Instead of
just
telling them
being.
what they should do,
Yeah, instead of just, I mean, that and being vague and
being
ambiguous.
bossy.
Most of
Right.
us, we tend to kind of beat around the bush and we kind of try to kick the can down the road. No, that's where, as you alluded to earlier, sometimes you have to step into it, put your boss hat on and be assertive. This is how I
Mhm.
feel. This is what I'm thinking. This is where I'm coming from, what I'm saying. But also, you want to be very mindful of how you were saying the things that you were saying. Because
Right.
one thing that I've realized especially being a man, being an African American man, I have to be very cognizant and aware of how I'm saying things, just as important as what I'm saying. Because
Mhm.
sometimes how I'm saying things can detract or take away from what I'm actually trying to
Right.
communicate. So then it communicates a whole different message because I'm right up
Mhm.
on somebody or I may be talking very loudly. So now people are no longer paying attention to what I'm saying. They're paying attention to how I'm saying it. They're like,
Mhm.
oh my God, I'm
So
scared.
aggressive.
He's
So
being
aggressive.
aggressive. And it may not necessarily be that I'm being aggressive. It may just be that I'm being passionate about what I'm saying. I
And
truly feel what I'm saying.
I hate that those two things um, get crossed over when
Mm-hmm.
someone is passionate versus being aggressive, right? Excuse me. Aggression it does not care about anyone else's desire, right?
Absolutely.
Passion does. Passion, if a person is passionate, I am desiring that you understand. I want to convey something to you. Aggression, I
Absolutely.
don't care if you get it or not. I'm
Yeah.
Right.
gonna do it, and I don't care if it hurts you. I am self-serving. Passion is
Mm-hmm.
not self-serving. Passion has the desire. It needs other people in order for it to be what it is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
No one's passionate by themselves. No one's like, I really just love this in a room by themselves. They don't have
Right.
nobody to share that with. Passion
Well,
needs a community in order for it to work.
right.
But one thing that I espouse to my clients all the time in sessions is that when you are having conversations with people, allow them to speak, summarize back to them what you receive from them
Yes.
so that
Yes.
you can ensure that you have a true understanding of what they're trying to communicate to you. Because that allows you to keep from misunderstanding something, and then now your thought process is going into your response based off of a misconception or misunderstanding
Off of what you thought they said.
what you
Right.
thought they said. and
Thought.
that
Yeah.
and that's where, like I said, I will let the other person talk. While they're talking, I set my phone down. I give them my complete and undivided attention because I don't want to miss anything. And then once they're done talking, I will ask, am I able to respond to what you're saying? And
Mhm.
so then when they say yes, I will then, so what I heard you say was, and I'll repeat it back to them, or I'll give them a synopsis of what I received from them. And
What I
What
understood
I
what
understood.
I
was
understood. And
Yeah.
so by giving that synopsis, you allow them to clear up any misunderstandings. You allow them to do an on the spot correction because you may have misinterpreted things because depending on where you're
or they
from.
may have stated something and that wasn't their intended point.
Exactly. And that's where, as I said earlier, when it comes to seeking compromise, your pride and your ego have to be out of it. Because for
Mhm.
a lot of us, we lead with our pride, we lead with our ego, and the moment that our pride and our ego gets pricked any which type of way, it don't even got to be big, it's small. Now I've seen people throw their whole lives away over someone has bruised their ego. Someone stepped on my shoes,
This is
and
not
now
have
I'm
healthy yeah, that's not healthy relationship building.
mm-hmm.
Right.
And in a relationship doesn't have to just be people you want to continuously do life with. right? Like my neighbors are my neighbors. I don't really consider my neighbors as my friends per se.
Mm-hmm.
They are my neighbors. These are people who I respect and I do life with, right? So I'm going to check my need to be aggressive and say at the door, I don't want to handle my neighbors aggressively or passively. I want to be assertive
Assertive.
and collaborative to make sure that I am communicating, hey, these are my needs, but I'm also interested in yours,
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
right? And I want both of us to get our needs met, and let's figure out a way for that.
And that's the end state goal of seeking compromises. Is trying to ensure that as much of everyone's needs are being met equally. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I think that when you go into any type of discussion, any type of debate, any type of conversation of education, you know, with that in mind of, you know, we may not get everybody's needs met. We may not get
Mm-hmm.
all of them met, but we should be trying to meet a good percentage of them. Because we all have a, you know, like everyone says they, that adage of everyone has a price. Everyone, it does
Mm-hmm.
indeed have a price. So it may not be somebody may come in and say, hey, I want $100,000. We sit down and negotiate. We may come down to $75,000,
Mm-hmm.
$60,000
Mm-hmm.
from that 100%, from that $100,000. But when you go into
Yeah.
the conversation looking at it like that, with the thought process of, you know, I don't always have to be right. I don't always have to have the last word. You know, we should be leaving this conversation with as much as each other's needs being met as possible. People are more willing to continue to do business with you if you come into it with that thought
Mm-hmm.
process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, and I mean, it builds relationships.
Yeah.
I think that's the important part, right? I want to build healthy. I want to have healthy relationship building because I want to recognize that I don't do life by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Life is not done, um, as we said, like in a vacuum. I do life with other people, and because I do life with other people, I have to make sure that I am putting myself, excuse me, in a position to do that in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about that on our podcast, making sure things are done in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
You can do them in any kind of way you like, but that doesn't mean you're going to get the results you want.
Absolutely.
So making sure if your aim and goal is, okay, I want to do it in the healthiest way possible, right? Ego is not healthy. I'm sorry. Being overly prideful about things typically is not healthy, right? It's a difference of, and we know the difference of prides, right? That pride where I'm above someone else, or pride of I like it, I'm proud of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's different. Being proud and being prideful are two different things.
Different things. Right.
Absolutely.
And I think that sometimes we combine the two, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not telling a person not to be proud. If proud of your heritage, proud of
You're
your
right.
knowledge, proud of your accomplishments, be proud of those things. Don't be prideful of, if you're not here, you can't sit with us.
Right.
If you
I think
don't
it
look
just
like us, you can't sit with us.
You can't.
you
Right.
can't sit with us, right? And I don't like that. I don't like that at all
Mm-mm.
because it does not foster community. What I am is anti anyone being separative in the
Right.
sense of I
Right.
hate you because of something that you had no control over.
Yeah.
I don't like that from anybody because I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that that's healthy, right? I think that our differences, and I started off the podcast saying this, our differences are the things that make us unique, that make us um, flavorful, that brings the color to the conversation. And if we would learn to appreciate person's differences as opposed to trying to change or alienate the differences, I think we'd have a better life. And it would lead to healthier conflict resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm saying, well, I'm interested, like you said, Raja, you're interested in hearing the other person's perspective. I don't want to miss out on anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want to know how you think about it. I want to know how you see it. I want to know how this impacts you. And if we had that, our world would be such a different place, right? Politically, religiously, socially, we would just see things happen in a healthier space if people just had a little bit of curiosity, right? Not even just because you're different, I have to see it the way you do. No, I'm just curious in how you do it. I
Mhm.
just want to see. I want to see how the other side lives, right? Why do you think that way? Why is that important to you? Why do you feel that way? And then maybe like, oh, it's not that bad. We're
Mhm.
not that different after all.
Well, I think Americans should strive to do that because we're looked upon as liars elsewhere, right? That we actually live in this false reality.
We might be liars though. Huh.
Look, like people, I've talked to Germans, I've talked to Italians, I've talked to different people. I've been to France, right? Why they don't like Americans, right? And
Yeah.
I think some of the reason is you give this false hope that, oh yeah, we're all inclusive, we love all people, but they're always seeing this divide and
Mhm.
separation when they think
Absolutely.
about Americans, right?
Yep.
Y'all are racist, you're elitist, you're this, you're that, right? And so they see it, and we always back it up on camera. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Absolutely.
We're gonna show off, we're gonna show out, right? So
hmm
if you don't like each other, how can you call yourselves a community? How can you call yourselves a country? Because in their country,
We're a country until
divided. Yeah, until somebody says something we don't like. We're a country divided. This
pretty
is
much
sad, you know.
And
When people
done much.
and I mean, Unique is absolutely right. Just being willing to, a lot of times, just being willing to hear somebody else out, a lot of times is enough to diffuse most arguments and most disagreements.
Yep.
Because it conveys a level of respect. You just being willing to sit down at the table with somebody and just being willing to hear them out, a lot of times is enough to, even in some cases without you even doing anything, is enough to sometimes change their heart and change their minds. And
Yes.
that's where, as I said before, most of us, especially in today's society, we operate from a place of conversations of confrontation, where I got to get you told, I got to get my lick back, I got to get that last word, I got to get in your behind, instead of sitting down and, what can we learn from each other? How can we be better from this conversation? What can we do to not continue to repeat the same things over and over and over again and get the same outcomes?
Well, the book that we all like says a soft answer turns away wrath,
Mm-hmm.
but
Absolutely.
a harsh word leads. I think it says leads to contention or something like that. And it's true. If I don't care what you're disagreeing about, and my mom used to always tell me when I was a kid, she was like, "You're such a politician," because she was like, "You just know how to disagree in such a soft way." My husband may not agree with that all the time, but that's okay. But I think I learned the knack of being able to say whatever it is that I want to say in a way that's going to be palatable. I think we want to handle everybody in the same way. And it's just like context, context, context. How I may say something to Raja is going to be different from how I say it to Khalil. It's going to be
right.
different from how I say it to my kid, right? P is, God bless my kid. She is a mean girl at times. And so one time we were riding down the road and I was making up a silly song and I was just like, oh yeah, this is I could make this a real song. I could record this and be a recording artist. And out of her little mouth, she comes out and says, well, nobody's gonna listen to you because nobody knows who you are. I said, God
I,
dang it, Pete.
yeah, oh,
Gosh.
my
She's
dream.
like, no, I was like, everybody kind of starts off as a nobody. Yeah, but you're like not like Kirk Franklin, Beyonce. You're like no one knows you, and it's just
Dang, she stomped all over your
I said,
feelings.
Like,
God,
you
dog it, boy.
You ain't
So I had to. So she kept everything she kept saying just got like worse, and I was just like, "Peace, stop, no more talking, okay? You killed my dream. Told me it's not a good song. Nobody's gonna listen to it because I'm a nobody. Like, stop." But I was trying to make a point with her that sometimes it's not necessarily. I said, "You're not wrong. Granted, if I create a song, will people probably listen to it? Probably not. 'Cause I don't have a fan base, right?
I'm
So
gonna
you're
listen
not
to it on SoundCloud.
wrong.
When you
You
put
want
it
to?
on SoundCloud, I'll listen to it. So me and Raja can have a laugh together.
Like, first of all, you're not gonna have a laugh because
Hit that, bro.
if I produce something, first of all, it's gonna be quality. I'm lumping y'all
Good.
in with P, okay?
It better be
Heathen,
quality.
heathen. Um, but I was helping her to understand. First of all, P, our words have meaning. You can't just say any and everything out your mouth. Well, mommy, it's just you. That's even worse. You got to
Right.
consider the context.
Mm-hmm.
I'm your mom. I have feelings. And she probably didn't want to hear it so harshly or just so bluntly, right? Consider what you're saying. I said, this is a lesson for you to recognize that sometimes, not that what you're saying is bad, right? But your delivery is wrong. The time you're trying to say it is wrong. I say, and a lot of times you get in trouble with your friends because you can be a bit too blunt. And it's
Mm-hmm.
harsh. It comes off harsh. I said, if you would pull back a little, ask some questions. Hey, why do you think that way? Why do y'all want to play that game? Why do you want to hang out that way? You know, why did you wear that? What was your thought process behind that? And get the answers. I said, it may change how you approach somebody. Oh, mommy, why do you want to make that? Why do you want to, turn this into a real song? I don't know. Just see if I can. Oh, yeah, you might. Maybe it could be successful, right?
Maybe
I don't
somebody else.
know. Right. I don't know if it will reach a lot of people because you don't have a fan base, but I don't know. It
Yeah.
changes how we approach things. If we start off without it being such a defense, I think that's what leads people to the anger portion because you get so defensive and make it about you. Everything's not about you. Dang it.
Right.
Well, I didn't like it. Who
You
cares?
can't tell people that you need. Come on
Who
now.
cares that you didn't like it? It's an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who think the world revolves around them. That's kind of normal.
Yeah, that's very sad. If the world revolves around you, that's
Mhm.
way too much pressure. I don't want the world to revolve around me. It's too much pressure in that because that means
Well,
that I have to be everything to everybody, and I'm not.
well, it's not even just that, but what happens is too many people dwell in the worlds of absolutes, where you're either with me, you're
Mhm.
against me, and
Right. Black
the
and white.
the only people who dwell in absolutes are people who are unwell, or
Hmm.
they are your stereotypical Bond villain or super villain from some movie. You know,
Yes.
it's okay.
You know,
It's okay for people to disagree with you. It's okay for people to have a differing viewpoint than you. It's okay for people
Hmm.
to not always like the same things as you. That's why, like, Burger King cornered the slogan of "Have it your way."
Hmm.
Everyone is not going to like a burger the same exact way, and that's all right. But we get so caught up in today's society, we get so caught up in you have to view things the way that I do, and if you don't, I'm going to cancel you, or I'm going to burn your life
Hmm.
up, or I'm
or
just,
I might kill you.
or
These
yeah,
days, they'll kill you.
Yeah.
or I might kill you, or I might just
Right.
just try to destroy you in any way that I possibly
Hmm.
can, all because you disagree with me. And again, as you alluded to earlier, most things that we enjoy in life comes from someone disagreeing. When you think of cars, for example, someone said, "Hey, I can build a car better than this
Yeah.
guy could."
Right.
No, somebody
Right.
said I don't want to walk.
Right.
I
I'm
don't want to
tired of this
walk
walking
anymore.
thing.
You know,
And I want to get there quickly.
yes.
That was a disagreement.
So of
And
course,
then the person who made
Hey,
the plane said, you know what? I'm tired of driving. That takes too long. I'm gonna
yes.
fly.
I'm gonna get there
So
even faster.
I'm
so
gonna get
when
the locomotive. I'm tired of the locomotive. I want to be in the air. Forget it. I'm tired of the land. It takes too long. I'm gonna fly.
and
Right.
that's
People
where
disagreed.
exactly most
And
innovations
ask
that
the right
we
questions.
and that's the
Ask the
thing
right questions.
that's the thing, most innovations that we have in the history of mankind stemmed from someone
Right.
disagreeing with someone else.
Hmm.
Disagreements, as Khalil pointed out in a previous episode, conflict and disagreements do not always have to be negative. Sometimes they can be positive. Sometimes you can realize when you're sitting down disagreeing with someone, god dang, we're both wrong.
Right. Disagreements can breed healthy change. It can be
Yes.
necessary change, I mean. Sometimes it's just necessary, right? To be like, okay, like for instance, just a funny story. My husband and I were trying to guess our neighbor's name. So we knew her name started with an L. I'm not gonna say her real name, but I hope I don't. So we were like, the name is Lisa. I was like, nah, her name ain't no Lisa. It's Lainey. The lady's name was none of that. I saw her walking and I was like, babe, we were wrong. The lady's name is Laura. He was just like, are you serious? I was like, I know, right? But it helped us to be more intentional about knowing
About
the
knowing her
neighbor's
name, right?
name.
But
So
that's
we
how
did
people
just what you
view it.
did. We literally laughed and was just like, child, we ain't worth nothing. Not us both not knowing the lady's name. But if you didn't, if people just learned to stop taking themselves so freaking seriously and just lighten up and say and not be defensive. I think that's the thing. If you're just not defensive and you just take a minute to ask the question, you sure understand, friend. Think it with the government, right? With our government shutdown. If either parties across the table said, man, you really think we need money for that? I do. Why we need money for that, friend? We don't need money for that. For real, we really need money for that? Yeah. Because if we don't provide money for that, these are all the things that are going to happen. Oh, you know what? You're right. Go ahead and get them a little bit more money in the budget. Go ahead and put the money in the budget. Because I ain't trying to pay for that on the back end, okay? Let's get them people their food stamps because then people going to go to the grocery store and the grocery store going to have to pay them high taxes because they didn't made all that money.
Mm-hmm.
Send the people to the store. Get them their food stamps, okay? Also, we want to spend a little bit more extra money with the guns because y'all know we have our nose in people's business. So we need to make sure we have a little cushion for the military. Give them a little bit more money for their guns, okay? Because we like to talk trash to other countries. So we got to make sure we can protect them. All right, you know what? You're right. We do need a little bit more ammo. We need to beef up our drones just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case, the roosters come to nest. We don't want to be caught in a bind. But because they're not willing to just hear the other person's or even consider the other person's perspective. No, that's stupid. Everybody's saying it's stupid and I'm not moving.
Yep.
Well, who's that helping?
And then of course where we're at now is the government shutdown.
Everybody's hurt.
Everybody's impacted.
Okay? Everybody's impacted. Now nobody's going to the grocery store. Nobody's buying weaponry. And now our pants are down and people can just kick us in the butt. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, America. As the late great Bernie Mac would say, America, listen. Come out your feelings. Yeah. It ain't doing you no good. You got to just really lean in and be willing to take a little.
Mm-hmm.
Good night, America.
So we are going to end the conversation here. This is Try Not to Overthink It signing out. I'm RJ.
I'm Unique.
And I'm Khalil.
If you like what you heard, like what you saw, please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button. Every little bit helps. We are trying to get these messages out here. We are trying to get these conversations started.
We don't want a little bit. We want a lot of it.
We want a lot of it. As much help as you can give us, we want it. As much love as you can give us, we want it. As much support as you can give us, we want it. If you would like to listen to us instead of watch us, I don't know why you would, because we are some very good looking people. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Audible, pretty much anywhere you can get your audio files, we can be located. If you'd like to support us even more, we have both Instagram and TikTok where we drop condensed versions of the episodes, as well as Mindfulness Minutes, which are therapeutic thought processes and ideas that we generate every day to help improve everyone's lives. So if you'd like to support us, we will put the links down in the description. But this is us signing out, and we will catch you guys next time. Peace.